slightly out of order, but it would be Mike Trimpe. Mike Trimpe.
Good morning, Mr. Trimpe. Before you take a seat, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Very good. Please have a seat.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
First thing I'd like you to do is introduce yourself to the jurors and spell your last name for the record.
Michael Trimpe, Trimpe.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a forensic scientist at the Hamilton County Coroner's Crime Laboratory. I've been working there for about 37 years as a trace evidence examiner. Also, the last few years, I'm the director of the crime laboratory. As a trace evidence examiner, I would analyze small things like hairs, fibers, paint, glass, soil, gunshot residue, explosives, and usually using microscopes, but analyzing these small things for comparison or identification of them.
My intention at this point, Mr. Matthews, is go on his qualifications unless there's some dispute as to his expertise.
There is no dispute. We stipulate he's not.
Very good, thank you. You've been qualified and testified as an expert in your field in courts of law. Is that true?
Yes, over 200 times.
And that includes here in Hamilton County, state of Ohio?
Yes.
Now, in this case, did you have some evidence submitted to you by the Cincinnati Police Department regarding the shooting death of Samuel DuBose?
Yes, I did.
And that shooting death would have occurred on July the 19th, 2015?
Correct.
What matters were submitted to you?
They first submitted his gun belt and the items on the gun belt, and then also a flashlight and the driver's side car door from Sam DuBose's car.
All right, if I could, let me ask you if you can identify a couple of photos. States exhibits 22A and B. And ask if you can identify those for the jury.
Yeah, 22A is a picture of the car door with the window, and 22B is another picture of the bottom side of that car door.
I think these are already in evidence. If not, let me ask this. Do they fairly and accurately depict the car door as you saw it at the crime lab?
Yes.
At that point, I would move 22A and B into evidence, Judge.
Any objection?
No objection.
They'll be admitted and published.
And what was with regard to this car door, what was it that they wanted you to look at?
They wanted me to see if there was any transfer of automotive paint from the car door to his belt and the items on the belt.
That would be Raymond Tenzing's duty belt?
Yes,
And to that end, they actually took the car door off the car and brought it up to your office?
correct.
And you had a chance to examine it there, is that correct?
Yes.
Let me ask you this. You understand that the theory behind Officer Tenzing's defense is that he was pulled or dragged? Is that your understanding?
Yes.
And if that happened, could there be some transfer from the car door to items that he was wearing?
Which I
Speculation. Rephrase the question. The objection is sustained.
Well, what are you looking for and why are you looking for it?
Well, we always want to look at anything suspicious that, or to answer any questions that they might have. And so I looked at the door to look for specifically scratches, things that might stick out to me as something that might happen in that kind of a story, that he was dragged or came in contact with the door in an unusual way. So I was just looking for scratches, and there was lots of scratches on the door.
Okay. And in that regard, sir, you then look at and see if any of the paint from that car door is transferred to the duty belt or the flashlight or anything like that?
Correct. So under the microscope, I looked at every item around the duty belt and looking for abrasions or scratches. And I found a few on a few of the items, and then specifically under the microscope looking for any evidence of automotive paint.
And assuming you find automotive paint that matches the paint on that door on the duty belt or the flashlight, might that support a claim that in fact Officer Tenzing was dragged?
I don't know that I could say that, but I would think it would be unusual unless something abrasive was happening that you would have actually paint scraped off of a car onto a duty belt.
Okay. At the very least, it would show that there was contact between the duty belt and the door?
Correct.
Okay. If I could, let me show you what we marked for the purpose of this trial, the state's exhibit number 4B. And I'll ask if you can identify that.
Yes, this is, our crime lab number is CC 152376. This is item number 19, and it bears my initials on there.
And that's the flashlight that was submitted to you for examination?
Yes.
And did you mark that envelope in some way with your initials and the date that you looked at it?
Yes, again, my initials are there, and then when I resealed the envelope, I initialed it with the date I resealed it.
There's no question that's the same item that you examined, is that correct?
That's correct.
And if I could show you what we marked for the purpose of this trial, the state's exhibit A and ask if you can identify that as well. What was that? A, I believe.
Yes, this is crime lab number, again, CC 152376. Again, it bears my initials right up here, and this is item number 18.
And that's the duty belt that you examined?
Yes, inside is the duty belt with all the items on it.
And again, did you mark that item with your initials and date so it's clear you're talking about that object in your testimony here?
That's correct.
Now, you indicate that there were scratches on the driver's side door, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you examine the flashlight, State's Exhibit 4B, and the duty belt, State's Exhibit 8P, to see if those items contained any automobile paint that would match what was on that car door?
Yes, I did.
And could you tell the jurors what your findings were when you examined those items?
Like I said, I found a few abrasions and scratches on a few of the items. I looked inside those. There were 3 items that had some type of material to actually analyze, and when I analyzed that material, it was not automotive paint.
There's no physical evidence then on the duty belt or on the flashlight that would definitively indicate that it had come into contact with that door?
Correct.
Now, did you also have a pair of boots submitted to you for examination?
Yes, I did.
If I could, let me show you what we marked for the purpose of this trial, the State's Exhibit 8Q, and ask if you can identify those items.
Yes, again, this bears the crime lab number on this tag that I placed on the boots, CC 152376, my initials, and this is item 26-1.
And these are boots that you examined in this case, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was the requested, or what were you asked to do with regard to these boots marked as Exhibit 8Q?
Well, I asked for them to submit the boots to look for, specifically for drag marks. I didn't know that I could find anything, and if I did, if I could say that it meant anything, because I don't know if I did find anything, if I would know when it occurred or how it got there. But in trace evidence, we always like to look at everything first under the microscope and see. So I got these boots in and looked specifically for scrapes or drag marks, possibly, and I did not find any obvious abrasions or scratches on it.
So no physical indication on those boots that they had been subjected to dragging on pavement?
Correct.
Judge, can I have just a second, please?
Take your time.
Judge, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Very good. Cross?
Mr. Trimpe, were you ever furnished with any of Ray Tenzing's clothing items?
I don't know if the clothing came with the boots, but I was not asked to look at clothing.
Okay. When you were furnished with the car door from the Honda, did you note any dirt on it?
I specifically was looking at scratches, and I didn't note anything of interest. But, you know, in those scratches, I was specifically looking for something that may be from the police officer, and I didn't note anything.
You know that the car had been wrecked on the right side, or on the left side, is that correct?
I suspected it was because some of the scratches looked like that.
And you were not asked to examine the car door for any dirt?
No.
In your field, would it have been possible for you to determine whether any dirt had been transferred from the car to Mr. Tenzing's uniform pants, for instance, had you been asked?
Yeah, I can always look for dirt.
But nobody asked you to?
No.
Okay. Now, you indicated that you couldn't determine whether there was any paint transferred from that door to the duty belt that you examined, correct?
Correct. I didn't find any automotive paint on that duty belt.
Okay, and the fact that you didn't find any, and what was the purpose of your looking for paint on the duty belt?
I was requested by the police to look for any transfer of the duty belt to the car or vice versa.
And had you found some of that, that would have indicated that there was some contact between the duty belt and the car door, correct?
Correct.
And the fact that you didn't find any does not mean that there was no contact.
Correct.
Would that be correct?
That's right.
And the fact that there wasn't any paint or whatever you were looking for transferred to the duty belt or to the flashlight does not mean that Ray Tenzing was not dragged. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you did find some scratches on the duty belt and the items that were attached to it?
Yes.
Did that indicate anything to you?
No, I would imagine that a police officer scrapes up against things quite often in their job, so I expected to find some abrasions and things.
Could you tell how recently any of the abrasions were placed on that duty belt or the items attached to it?
No, I can't do that.
Now, you indicated one of the items you tested with was the flashlight, correct?
Correct.
And again, you didn't find any transfer evidence on that?
Not from the automotive vehicle.
And would it be a fair statement on my part that it would depend upon where the flashlight was located on that duty belt as to whether or not it would even have an opportunity to come in contact with the car?
Sure.
And again, the fact that there was no transfer evidence that you could locate doesn't mean that Ray Tenzing wasn't dragged, correct?
Correct.
You indicated that the boots that you examined did not have any clear evidence to you that Ray Tenzing had been dragged, correct?
That's correct.
But that doesn't mean that he wasn't.
That's correct.
May I have a moment, Judge?
Take your time.
We have nothing further.
Very good. Any redirect? Very good. Thank you, Mr. Trimpe. You may step down.
Thank you.
You can go ahead and leave that evidence there, please. Is this witness released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection to Mr. Trimpe being released?
No, Judge.
Very good. You are free to leave the building. Thank you.